So 1.5 years ago, I started my small business on Etsy. When I first started, I didn't really have a clue what I was doing. I had no prior experience. So I really want to talk about what I made when I was first starting on Etsy and how I've grown and how I've changed and how much I make as a small business now, 1.5 years later. When I started my small business, I did not have a clue what I was doing. I've never done like business before. I used to just draw for fun. I've never really done art professionally, so it was all very new to me. When I first started, I actually had no other revenue for my small business. I had a bit in savings. Throughout university, I had been working like multiple jobs and stuff, so I'd managed to save up a decent amount. I think this is an estimate because I can't remember exactly how much I had when I started, but I think it was around £2,000 that I'd saved up. I actually didn't have a job. I quit my job during university. I also happened to be the victim of watching a lot of videos where people were telling me that if I quit my full-time job and I just start a small business, within a year I could be making six-figure numbers, and honestly I believed them. And I'm not saying it can't happen, it can happen. I expect to be able to achieve that someday. I just think within a year it's a little much to expect, especially for me. I'm not saying it's impossible to do that in a year, but I had no prior experience. So for me to kind of think that I could achieve 6 figures in a year, or maybe just a little bit under that, like 5 figures or something, was a little bit ambitious. I expected it to be too easy, and it wasn't that easy, and we're gonna get into all of that later. So I didn't have a job, but I did have some savings. I started in September, just before Christmas, and I thought that was a really good time because it was Christmas, right? Everyone buys products at Christmas. Like, it's a really good time to get into the market. Unless you're a small business and no one knows who you are, then you probably won't get that many sales, as I came to learn. I do have all the numbers on my little notes so I don't forget how much I spent and how much I actually made. It says I spent £197 on a printer with my savings, and I spent another £200 on a Cricut. Over the Christmas period, in the first quarter of having a small business, I made £110 from Etsy. Bearing in mind I had no other revenues. I was doing YouTube at the time, but I didn't actually make any money from it. I think I had at the time like 200 subscribers or something. Didn't do market stalls or anything. I was just solely focused on getting my Etsy shop up and running. I also spent £143 on stock, so my savings were already going down quite a lot, but that's absolutely fine. When you start a business, you've got to invest, and that's what my savings were for. Or I decided that they were for that. They were actually supposed to be for my driving license, maybe even saving up for a house, but here we are. I made £110 through those 5 months of being on Etsy. However, I was put into a payment account reserve, which is what Etsy does to a lot of new sellers when they're unsure if you are a real person selling real things. They put you into a payment account reserve for a couple of months. So for the first 3 months of being on Etsy, I didn't see a single penny, but that's okay because I knew in January that money was going to eventually come back to me. Like, I was going to get it eventually. It's all okay. What had happened was I didn't realize the money that was in my payment account reserve, the £110, was actually revenue, not the profit I had made. Etsy took no fees out of that money. So when it came around to actually giving me the money, I got zero. I got absolutely nothing because Etsy took it all in fees, and I didn't realize that. So that was my first big mistake as a small business. For the first 3 months of having a business, I made absolutely nothing. I actually ended up losing £540. I was just so excited to finally get my first bit of money for my small business, and it was ripped away from me, so naturally I was very upset. I realized maybe I shouldn't be relying on Etsy as much at this stage in time. I decided in January 2023 that I was going to start doing market stalls. In my first market stall, I made £36, which was pretty good. I didn't expect to make anything. However, the table was £20, so technically I only made £16. But again, that was fine with me. I had at least made something. That's also not including like petrol, and like I had to buy a little bit of like setup display stuff. I had to buy a tablecloth. I bought this little like keychain kind of stand thing as well. It was kind of cheap, but again, at the end of it, I probably didn't make any money, but that's fine. I'd still gain some money even if it wasn't profit, even if I wasn't making back the money that I was putting into my business just yet. I was still okay with that. I remember being so excited just gaining £36 for my small business. So the market stall went pretty well, and I was very happy with that. So from January to February, March time, I really focused on the market stalls. I was seeing some sales on Etsy because I was increasing, like, I was doing YouTube videos, and those were kind of pushing people towards my shop a little bit, and I was posting on Instagram quite a lot back then as well. So I guess people were finding me through there, and people were going to my Etsy shop, so I did see kind of a little increase in sales, but again, not a whole lot, not really a lot to make profit. I was still losing money. I think I was getting like 1 order a week on Etsy if I was lucky. So it says in my notes, from January to February I got 13 orders on Etsy and made £57. That's revenue. I went back on Etsy and looked up all my stats, like for each month and everything. I couldn't find where Etsy would tell me my profits that I made without all the Etsy fees and stuff. I couldn't find that. So again, I think that's before Etsy fees. So again, I probably didn't make that much money, but it's still better than making nothing, so I'll take it. But I realized market stalls were definitely where it's at. I made £36 in a day compared to like £30 in like 4 or 5 months on Etsy, so market stalls it was. During that time, I spent £91 on stock. When I started Etsy, I only had art prints and I think maybe 2 badges and 1 sticker. So not a great, I didn't start off very well. I had 7 products in my shop, not great. I was really working hard to make new keychains and pins and stuff. I realized art prints as well were not selling very well for me, which is totally fine. I realized they weren't selling, so I decided to start moving into more like stationery and accessories and stuff, which worked out a lot better for me because my first market stall, my keychains and my bookmarks and stuff were the thing that sold the most. So I kind of started getting to grips with like what was selling and what wasn't. So after all of the new stock and the display stuff, despite getting orders and doing market stalls in January and February, I still really wasn't seeing profit, but I was seeing a little bit of revenue come in. So kind of improving very slowly, but I was getting there. That's the first 5 to 6 months of having a small business. Let's talk about the middle part, the next 5 to 6 months of my small business, where things were starting to pick up. Still, after all of that, my main focus was market stalls. At this point, I was not really as focused on Etsy because market stalls were just bringing me the most money in. I was doing like 2, sometimes 3 market stalls a month, but it was usually just 1 or 2. And each market stall was starting to get more and more money, so I started seeing like £40 after a couple of months, and then like 50 and then 60, and it was going up and up and up the more I was buying stuff. So I was seeing like £50 to £60 per market stall, so 2 market stalls a month, £50–60 each. That's about 110. Let's just round it to, because I don't know the exact figures for that, but we'll round it to 110, which is a massive leap for just making £36 in 1 month. It might not seem like it hearing about it, but at the time I remember being like, oh my god, I just went to a market stall and made £50. Oh my god. That is before table costs, so technically I made 30, but again, it was still revenue. I was still seeing more and more money come in, so I was very happy about that. So the next 5 to 6 months, I was continuing to expand my stock. During that time, I spent £447.64 on stock. Yep. I was buying like tote bags, I was buying new keychains, pins. I was literally throwing everything I had into my small business at this point because I'd realized what people liked and what people didn't like from going to market stalls. So I was more confident going out and buying all this new stock because I knew what was going to sell well, or I had an idea of what would sell well. So I really went for it with that. I also spent around £78.45 on display stuff, so like tier stand. I got like these blue backing blocks as well for my stall. So my stall went from looking like this to looking like this, and people at market stalls were kind of coming around to my store a lot more. I think people were more interested because it was more colourful and it was like higher as well. I realised if you're doing market stalls or you're trying to get into market stalls, pro tip, build upwards. If everything's flat on like your table, they won't see the stuff as well as if it's like stacked up, and that really helped, which is kind of why my market stalls were getting more and more money. So I estimated it to be roughly around 110 per month, 2 market stalls a month. So I made around £550 in revenue from those 5 to 6 months from market stalls alone, which is big. So during those 5 months on Etsy, I did, again, still growing my YouTube, still trying to post on, like, I think I started getting into TikTok around that time as well, so I was trying to post on there a bit more. I made £689.75 from Etsy revenue. So remember, that's not including Etsy fees. It was probably a little lower than that. Not massive, but going from getting like £30 in 5 months from Etsy to getting 685 in 5 months from Etsy is a massive jump. That is really good in my opinion. So I was definitely getting there. I was definitely growing. I also did a couple of big markets too. I think in like July I did my first big market stall. It was right in the center of the city, which was super awesome for me, and it didn't cost anything. It was kind of, I don't want to say it was like a charity, but it was basically just to help small businesses that were new and starting out, which I was and still kind of am. I learned that you're actually classed as a startup business for the first 3 years of your business. So from one of the market stalls, I made £211 from one of them. And another one that I did, which was actually closer to September time, I made 164. Well, it was huge for me. That was the moment. I think I actually had a video on it. You can check it out. I'll link it up here. I cried in that video because that was the first time for me with my small business that I realized that I can do this, that good things will happen from my business, and I just couldn't believe it. It was a very emotional time for me, and it was just really, really awesome. So in those months from market stalls, I made £799 in 67 profit. So a lot. Obviously, again, not including like petrol and stuff. Probably a bit lower if you include all of that, but I was taking that stuff out of my own pocket, out of my savings. I never, whatever I got from my small business was going straight back into my business via buying stock and all that kind of stuff. In revenue though, overall, it was £1,059 and 67 pence overall revenue for my small business in those 5 months, which it might not sound like a lot, or maybe it does, but it was still enough to keep my business afloat. I wasn't having to put as much of my money into it, and that was awesome. It was starting to grow, and I was so happy with that. I should also mention that in March? No, May. Yeah, no, April, maybe. No, maybe it was March. I got a part-time job at that point as well. So I was working part-time as a barista. So I wasn't having to use my savings, because throughout the first 5 to 6 months, I was also using my savings to like pay rent and stay afloat. So all of my savings by that point were pretty much gone. I did not have any of it left. So I got a part-time job. So all of the money that I made from my business was going straight back into my business. So my business was able to kind of keep itself afloat by the revenue that I was making. But don't get me wrong, at that point I was still putting a lot into it, because while it was able to keep itself afloat, it wasn't able to grow without me having to continuously put money into it at that point. So I was still putting quite a lot into it as well from my own pocket, from what I made as a barista. Also, in May of that year, May last year, I hit 1,000 subscribers and got monetized on YouTube, which was so exciting, and I was overjoyed. And I didn't start getting paid right away from YouTube. When you hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, you have to get like £60 before you can start getting paid from YouTube. So I didn't get paid straight away, but it was just so exciting knowing that the prospect of that making money from making videos on YouTube was just around the corner. YouTube has been a massive part in me being able to grow my business. So all of the money that I get from YouTube still goes straight back into my business. I don't take any of the money. So when I say to you guys that I appreciate you watching my videos and supporting me on YouTube, I mean it, because you are still giving back to my business by doing that, because I put all of the money from YouTube into my business. So in August, I made £64 from YouTube, and I also made £67 in September from YouTube as well. Oh, I forgot as well, I actually bought a tumbler press at that time, and I think I got a sublimation press, and with what profits that I had made over those months, I ended up buying a tumbler press and a sublimation printer. So how much did those come to? Let's check. Okay, so it was £231 for a tumbler heat press, and the sublimation printer was £259. Again, I didn't take any of that profit for myself. It all went back into my business. I was buying things like tumblers and mugs and everything. So did I actually make any profit during those 5 months? No. Could I have? Yes. I chose not to. Because I had a part-time job, and actually in September I went from having a part-time job to having a full-time job, I didn't feel the need to take money for myself. So the next 5 to 6 months after that is the lead up to today. So as I began making more and more money with my small business, I was able to put more and more back into it. So this is where things really started picking up. So it was around this time, after I'd done 2 big market stalls, I realized they were way more beneficial for my business than the small ones. Just doing 2 market stalls a month and making less than I made doing 1 big market stall a month just didn't feel right. It just felt like a lot of wasted energy and time when I could be using that energy and time and putting it into my online shop, because at the end of the day, I don't want to be someone who goes around doing market stalls all the time. I want to be an online shop, an online business. So as my market stalls were growing as well, I should also mention, from the smaller market stalls that I was doing, I actually went from making 50 to 60 pounds in profit to making 90 to 100 pounds in profit every time I did one of those small market stalls, which just goes to show how much my stock and my display was growing. I just wanted to focus on what really mattered to me, which was my online shop and my YouTube, because I had kind of been neglecting my online shop in favor of market stalls for that entire year, and I was like, enough is enough, okay? I don't want to do market stalls for the rest of my life. So the few market stalls that I did before Christmas, I made 197 pounds just before I stopped doing them altogether. I think I only did 2 of them before stopping completely, so from those 2 market stalls I made 197 pounds, which is really good. That's a massive improvement from the beginning of the year when I made 63 pounds or something in 1 month. One thing that I really decided to do was to move on to conventions, because market stalls aren't really my target audience, and I realized that. My kind of art is very cutesy, goofy, adorable, kind of like fun colors and stuff, very bright. But people at market stalls, I kind of realized, weren't as into that as they could be. People who go to like craft fairs and market stalls are probably looking for like framed pictures or plants or terrariums or maybe antiques and stuff like that. Those kind of stalls did better than what I was doing, so I started thinking, where are my audience? Probably at conventions. So I decided to move from market stalls to doing conventions. Unfortunately for me, there aren't a lot of conventions where I live. There's 1 big convention a year in my area, and it's very hard to get into because it is the only convention in my area, so therefore every artist wants to be a part of it. So getting into conventions was extremely hard for me. However, I finally got into a convention. It wasn't a big one, it was just for 1 day, and it wasn't a massive one. It was very small scale kind of convention. I did that, my first convention, in March, beginning of March, and I have a video on it, so if you want to check that out as well, you can check it up here and see how that went. From that convention, I made around 279 pounds, and I paid 60 pounds for a table. So if you remember, I did a market stall in August, September time where I paid 60 pounds for the table and made 164 pound profit. Paid 60 pounds for that table as well at the convention and made almost double what I made. Actually, I made over double than what I made at the market stall. So that kind of solidified for me that I was in the wrong place with the market stalls. As fun as they are, not my audience. Conventions, clearly where it's at. So from those 2 market stalls and 1 convention throughout this next quarter leading up to today, I made 411 pounds from doing 3 events. Whereas this time last year, doing 3 events would have gotten me maybe over 100 pounds, and that's not even profit, that's revenue. So lots and lots of growth in that area. Super happy with that. As I said, I actually have a full-time job right now, so keep that in mind throughout this next quarter that I'm talking about. I have a full-time job. I don't take the money from my small business because I'm still trying to grow it. I definitely could. 411 pounds, nothing to laugh about. I definitely could have taken some money from that if I wished, but I didn't, because I don't need it right now. But the good part is though, whatever I make from my job no longer has to go into my small business. When I get my paycheck, I don't put any of that back into my small business anymore because I don't need to, because my business at this point is able to keep itself afloat and also bring in profit for itself so it can grow. So I actually don't have to put any money back into my small business anymore, which again is a massive sign to me that I've grown so much. As I said, I had got monetized on YouTube, so let's talk about YouTube and what I make with YouTube these days. I continue to grow my online presence. I'm very close to 4,000 subscribers, so if anyone wants to help me reach that mark, then feel free to do so. So my YouTube presence has continued to grow. I'm currently almost at 4,000 subscribers. From YouTube, I went from making 67 pounds a month in September to making around 150 pounds a month in December, and now I make around 200 pounds a month. So in my 3rd quarter from YouTube alone, I made roughly £1,412. So for anyone wondering like how much you made from YouTube at this size, that's roughly how much I've made in the past 5 to 6 months from YouTube. Amazing. You guys do not understand how much that money and you guys supporting and watching my videos has helped grow my small business. It's just made my journey so much better. It's helped my small business grow in ways you don't understand. So I get a lot of comments that you guys can't always afford my products, or you want to support me but you can't afford it. I honestly, from the bottom of my heart, mean it with everything that I have. You watching my video right now, clicking subscribe, watching this video has helped me so much and helped my small business to grow so much. So thank you very much for sticking around and following on my journey, because that number right there is massive for me. Yeah, YouTube has helped me massively growing my small business, and yes, all of that went straight back into my business. Because I was doing sublimation, I was buying things like glass tumblers, skinny tumblers, lots of sublimation ink. My printer broke as well a little while ago. I had to buy a new printer, so a lot of that went back into my small business. It's helped me so much, so thank you guys very much. We've talked about YouTube, we've talked about the market stalls and convention that I did. Let's talk about Etsy. The focus of my small business, the place that I started my small business on and made absolutely nothing within the first 3 months of doing Etsy this time last year. In the third quarter of my small business, I made roughly £1,458 from Etsy in revenue. That's revenue. That doesn't include Etsy fees, so it's probably a little bit lower than that, but still, huge jump from what did I make in quarter two? Like, I can't even remember. In quarter two, I made like £689. So it may not sound like an impressive number to some people, but to go from that to over £1,000 is huge. That's massive. And I think because we live in a society where a lot of us are like, you know, bombarded by like, oh, I make 6 figures, I make 6 figures, you can make 6 figures if you do this, make 6 figures if you do that. You think like anything less than 6 figures isn't impressive, but if you start a small business and you are able to make over £1,000, even if it's just in revenue, that's all you have made that money. You know, I don't have any help from people other than like my mum would take me to market stores and stuff, which I massively appreciate. I design all the products, I package them, I edit my videos, I film my videos, all of it's me, you know. That money that I made is money that I have made all on my own, so I'm so happy with that, you know. And you don't have to make 6 figures to be successful. So overall revenue, I have made £3,281 for my small business in the past 5 to 6 months. This time last year, in January, I was doing market stalls and maybe making £40 per market stall. That number makes me, like, I actually didn't know that's how much I'd made in the past couple of months. This was just as much a surprise to me as it was for you guys. I had no idea. So in case anyone's wondering what that is a month, if you divide that revenue by 6, that's about £546 a month. Maybe not that impressive, but that's still just a little bit less than what I made in 5 months this time last year. We've talked about revenue, let's talk about what I bought during that time. So, as I mentioned, my printer broke. I had to buy another one for £248. Within the last 6 months, I have spent £770 on stock. I did 2 huge launches during that time as well. I did a Christmas launch, and then I did the launch that's just gone by, where I put all my tumblers and some new mugs and stuff onto the shop. So yeah, a lot of big huge launches going on, a lot of new stuff. Other things such as tumblers, sublimation paper and cups. This is a rough estimate. I couldn't get the exact numbers just because it was a lot of rummaging through like receipts and stuff. Roughly it was around £250 for like all of the mugs and tumblers and everything that I got. In quarter 3 of having a small business, the last 5 months, I spent about £1,286 on my small business. So this is before Etsy fees, but after I've bought all of my stock and my printers and everything else that my business needs. Roughly in profit, I made £2,013.98 over the last 6 months. Probably after Etsy fees, probably a little closer to 1,500 or 1,000 pounds. And yeah, I could have taken that 1,000 pounds for profit, but I didn't because I have a full-time job right now, and that's how I pay for my bills. That's how I pay for my bills, how I treat myself. Everything else I want to put back in my small business. I still have so many plans and so many products that I want to do, and I like making sure that my business has a little bit of extra money for itself. So if anything should go wrong, like a printer breaking, then I have that money there. I am also planning to buy something that's pretty big. That will be coming in the next vlog that I'm going to share with you all. So again, that's more what my money's going to is like new machines, like I'm not going to spoil it, but just new machines and stuff. We'll leave it there. Leave your comments down below. What do you think it is that I've bought for my small business next? I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to see what you guys think I've bought for my small business. So as you can see, I am growing slowly, but I am growing. As someone who started with like no experience in anything, I have learned so much, and I am more confident in myself and my business than I've ever been before. Despite that, I am actually really new to this. 1.5 years of being a business, my business is still like a little baby, you know? I really just want to let you guys know, for anyone who's watching, slow growth is still growth. You don't have to make 6 figures in a year to be successful, because at the end of the day, you still made money from something that you built all on your own. If that's not success, I don't know what is. I just wanted to share some real numbers from a real small business who is still growing and still learning, and to show you guys what my journey has really been like. And I really hope that all of you will continue to follow me on this journey at growing a small business. And if you like this video, then you should check out this video right here, where I show you guys a realistic day in the life of getting 0 orders as a small business and what I do when I'm not making money. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!